Welcome, my beautiful friends. So good to be with you today. It's been a little bit since I've made a video and I'm excited to be back. Take control of your life today, right? That's what we want. And we've heard on the news and everywhere, science this, science that, blah, blah, blah. They have all the answers. And it's great. I love science. I read a lot of science. I listen to a lot of science. I use science for everything I do, or in everything I do. But do you want to take control and have confidence in your life and direction? Science is not going to give you that directly, okay? If you want to have control, confidence, and direction in your life, you need to take control of the ship that is you and make it sail, make it fly, make it walk, make it run the direction you want it to go. Please subscribe, please follow, and I'd like to get my numbers up a little bit. It'd be absolutely lovely and put a smile on my face. All right, so everyone has heard the story of the Garden of Eden, right? The beautiful garden, man and woman, perfect form, I assume, perfectly together, as far as physically, emotionally, as good as you could possibly imagine, all the food you can eat, paradise, right? Almost every culture, every religion has a picture of whatever it is that they believe paradise is. Even if you look at it from the point of view of movies, of books, of romance novels and all that, they always are pointing you towards some sort of Eden, if you will, or some sort of paradise, if you will. If you were stuck alone on a deserted island or an island with the most attractive person you could imagine, and on that island it had everything you needed to survive. Good shelter, plenty of food growing everywhere, fish swimming right up to the edge of the water looking out at you and asking you to catch them and eat them, if you eat fish, that is. And perfect paradise. You have nothing to worry about. As beautiful as that is, and as compelling as that is, and it may work for many personalities, but for most of us, once we're settled in, we're still going to need to find some other purpose in our life, because we have a preordained code within us that asks us to do certain things. I'm a firm believer that this body is not me and that your body is not you. Although at this point we can't clearly, and neither can science clearly, differentiate between the soul and the body, or the mind and the soul, or the spirit and the body. But we know that it exists. We talk with it in our head. Our soul talks with our consciousness all the time. And we are trying to find direction in life. If you're unhappy, you're either stuck in that loop of talking with it too much, or you're hiding from that loop, or you're doing something that you're not in line with whatever it is that your soul wants. And as an aside, one of the terrifying things that I've noticed lately in our society with all the germ stuff going around, and I'm not going to mention the word, and people have gotten to where they think other people are unclean. And I would encourage you, we may not be politicians, we may not be billionaires, we may not own tech companies, but we can be physically, emotionally connected to those who are close to us. If you view your neighbor, the stranger on the street, as unclean, their breath is somehow dirty, then that's not going to get us where we want to go, or at least it's not going to get most people where they want to go. So let's remember, humans are clean. We're meant to share breath, we're meant to share touch, we're meant to share all those things. So let's not be afraid, let's live life. And I'm not saying if you're older or have some sickness, you don't take precautions. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we are meant to live in this world. We're meant to play with dogs, we're meant to play with children, we're meant to shake hands with our neighbors. Let's get with it. Anyway, sorry, on to the show. So back to analogies. Don't make the mistake of thinking that just because it's unscientific that it doesn't have meaning, or is it not true or helpful. The Garden of Eden is, to some people, truth, some people myth, some people it's an analogy, whatever it is to you, there's something to be learned from that. And what it is, it's a story, an event that's been passed down over generation, and it's stood the test of time. A lot of the stories that we read and a lot of history that we read, so we can learn from history and learn from these things. So I'm going to ask you to believe an analogy with me for a minute. Go with me on a ride, and truly on a ride. I mentioned earlier that this body that we're in is not us. It houses us. But yet, at this point, we cannot separate our souls very easily from our bodies. There are Tibetan monks and other people that are very religious and people that do a lot of meditation or breath work or whatever that say that they can separate from their body. And I believe that's probably possible. But for most of us, it's not realistic, or nor is it, can a person like that stay there all the time? We have things we must do. And that's where I get back to our soul, the breath of life that's in us, whatever that spark is that makes us live, has an agenda. And it needs certain things. So, you know a person, everyone knows a person like this, or seen a person on the side of the road like this. Their car doesn't have any dirt on it. It's polished inside and out, and they usually drive a little slower than other people, at least if they're not actually racing their hot rod, you know, and then eventually they may put big wheels on it, and some of them I've seen with lights in them, you know, so when they're going down the road, these lights are tricking out in the wheels. That shows that person, by the care of that vehicle, shows that they care about it and that it's important to them, and they feel good about it. And when you see it, you may have all kinds of judgments, but the one thing you are going to know inside is this person at least cares about something, and they put in a lot of effort into something. They're not sitting around doing nothing. They're working on this car. You can't keep a car. Anyone that's had a car knows that you can't keep it spotless without working your tail off. What I'm trying to say today is that our body is our car. Whether you like the one you got or not, it's the one you have. Whether or not something tragic has happened to it or not, it's the one you have. It is up to us to maintain this body in the best way that meets our personal belief system and will get us closer to the goal. In this instance, I believe, is for peace of mind and for happiness, to be more at one with whatever your soul is. So another analogy, I talk about life as being the ocean and we are on a surfboard, right? The ocean is the world, we're on a surfboard and we're going through life. We have control somewhat over the surfboard, over our body, but we don't have control over the ocean. We can control our car, our vessel, and get it in the best shape we can, educate it, because your mind is also part of the vessel. We can discipline it, we can help it sleep, we can do all these things to make it as optimal as possible to accomplish what it wants to accomplish. And then you might say, well, what does it want to accomplish? So many books have been written and psychologists have come up and delineated, very smart people, you know, all these different aspects of human personality, and, you know, anywhere from grieving to life to what we desire, the basics. But the way I put them down, and this is just a few, I didn't go through and write everything I possibly could, but our bodies have an agenda, right? Our car, our ship, our plane, our whatever you want to call it, our body. It wants to procreate, generally. It wants to communicate, generally. It wants connection with other people, other creatures. It needs to eat, has to have sustenance. It likes to move. I really like to move. And it also wants accomplishment. It wants to feel purpose in using the procreation, the communication, the connection, the sustenance, the movement to accomplish things. And that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And that's hard to define. That's up to you. That's for you to the benefit is that once you recognize your car, your souped up car, this body that you have, is for you to use to accomplish your goals. It's not somebody else's. It's not. So when people say something bad to you, it's only information. It's up to you to do with whatever they say. If they crowd your space and try to control you, you say, well, this is my space and my body. You can't control me. Here are the rules. If you can't follow the rules, you're gone. And I'm going through this quickly, and I don't mean that we should be mean to other people, but I think that understanding that this is your vessel, you don't get another one, generally speaking. Science may get that eventually, but it hadn't yet. But for now, you get one body, you have one mind, and your emotions are also in the mix. But keep in mind that you are the captain of all these things. At times they get out of our control. So how do you bring it back into control? Something that I think helps when you're thinking about what your goals are, what your control level is what are the purposes of all these things I just listed. We recognize in children a level of purity and joy that gets lost as we relate to the world around us. As we get older, children, what is the first thing they want to do? Well, the first thing they want to eat, they want feeling and touch and warmth. But I'm talking about as they get a little bit older, They want to move, they want to crawl, they want to stand, so that's movement. They want to talk, they want to communicate, they start babbling almost immediately, and if they see any kind of positive feedback from whoever it is that's taking care of them, that babbling gets bigger and bigger, and then you talk to them, they talk to you, and they learn how to talk. They certainly want to explore everything you don't want them to explore. And like I said, they need to eat because they get hungry and have to fuel the body. Now, as they grow, they learn to interact with other people, and then we start to learn how to negotiate. Unfortunately, in those negotiations, oftentimes we give up pieces of ourselves. And sometimes it takes many years, and sometimes people never realize what's been taken from them. So it's up to us to realize that we are individuals, and that's one of the reasons I believe strongly in individual liberty and individual rights. Not to be selfish, but to be strong individually so we can be strong together and make the world a better place. We must get control of our vessel. You can't choose your body necessarily, but you can adapt it by hard work. And it really doesn't take that much hard work. We think it does, but if you're exercising 20 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day, or even walking for 30 minutes a day, and you're eating mostly natural foods, unprocessed natural foods, you're probably going to be just fine. I believe we need to eat high protein, but that's my personal opinion. High protein, high fat, especially if you're a lady, you need high fat. That's my opinion, and science backs it up to a certain degree, but there are other people that believe the exact opposite, and so you need to figure that out. But that's what works for me. So don't hate on your vessel. If your vessel's not what you want it to be, you polish that car up. You look at the teenager who gets his first car, and it's a gremlin back from the 70s, They'll clean it up, they'll fix it up, and they'll go get their girlfriend and their boyfriend and go for a ride in their little gremlin. Well, a CEO or some movie star, they're going to look at the gremlin like, why would anybody even get near that thing? It's dirty. But that's not the way it is. It's special to them. Whatever vessel you have and how you treat it and how you feel about it is how the world will see it. So you only get the vessel you have. Take care of it. Work on it. Keep it clean. And as I'm talking about autonomy and the freedom that you can have when you acknowledge your vessel, I'm not saying that you shouldn't get help if you need it, external help, to get in line with where you need to be. I have accessed it many times. I've said many videos I have. So please, if you're struggling, get help and talk about these things that I'm talking about. People, depending on your stability and your history, can take words to mean very different things. Just depending on your history. So one of the main things I talk about in my life now with my children and my friends is honesty. And I tell my beautiful girlfriend that I will always be 98% honest with you. And people say, oh, that doesn't sound good. Well, there's 2% that's probably not good for her to hear. So it's not 2% dishonest to harm her, it's 2% dishonest to make her life a little more pleasant. Sometimes we think bad things, we don't let them come out. And if you believe what I believe about the body and the mind, there's a good possibility that it's not your thought anyway. So every thought that comes to your mind is not your thought. It's part of the process, but that doesn't mean that you have okayed it. Once it comes out of your mouth, you did okay it. The higher end of you did okay it. And if you did something wrong, you need to try to fix it if you can. I have many things, I make many mistakes, and I need to fix those things as well. So don't hate on your car. Love your car, take care of it, and realize that the more you live in life in tandem with your car, the clearer your purpose in life will become. And I want to talk about in the next video is, if you've made a mistake and you wrecked your car, i.e. you've made mistakes, whatever, how do you correct that? How do you get back on track? And I'd also like to talk a little bit more about what it is, the spark that's inside of us. I've already put out a couple videos on this, touching on it a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit more about the importance of the soul that is kept within this vessel and how to free it more, and realizing that when you look at another human being, you're just looking at their car, which tells you a lot about them, but it doesn't tell you everything about them. You can't know their full story. So if we can get to the point where we realize that housed within that person, whether it's a small child, an adult, whatever color, whatever sex, whatever beliefs, that inside there is a spark of life and a soul that is trying also to live within their vessel for hopefully the betterment of society and the world. Now, gets a little wrapped around the axle when you start talking about narcissism and all that sort of thing. But I'm talking about people who are honestly set out on this journey to help uplift the world around them. Okay? Thank you for being here. Love you guys. All the love, all the power. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.